Hey everybody, welcome to Houdini Hangout. It is Tuesday. I'm sure you've heard everyone say that. It's the 22nd of February, 2022. So apparently this date will only happen once ever in our lifetime, maybe. I guess that's true of all dates, I guess, but the mathematical significance of it, I guess, is certainly interesting. Um, anyways, welcome to the stream this evening. I'm pretty excited about getting to work with some Vellum Fluids tonight. I think it's always been something that's been lacking to do on like a small scale easily in Houdini, and I definitely am, played with it a little bit last night just to kind of get a feel for everything. But yeah, it definitely was something interesting to kind of, instead of using flip, on a small scale, which never really works that great. Always seems to be some weird thing that's happening. But yeah, and the buoyancy with using, and just doing some ice cubes or something floating in the liquid, always seems to be a bit of a tricky, subject to figure out with flip fluids and feedback and things like that. So, maybe for a larger scale thing in like an ocean or something like that, it would probably work better. But for small stuff, it's always been, pretty tricky. So, it's nice to get to kind of, I started playing with it a little bit last night, and I think we'll get to do some fun things with it this evening. I'm thinking probably what we're going to make, and what I was playing around with last night was just like a simple glass with some ice cubes in it and stuff like that, water pouring in, and getting the ice cubes to kind of react and float in the liquid. And yeah, it should be hopefully a pretty interesting process to work through and see where we get with it. So yeah, as always, I like to start off the stream by just saying, I'm not, some sort of, expert on some crazy level or whatever. I've been using Houdini for about 5 years now, 6 maybe, actually, now that I was thinking about that the other day. It's probably actually 6. But it's always a learning process, and I'm always interested to hear what other people have to say, and just be able to learn different techniques and different ways of thinking about things. So yeah, so that's always my caveat. Please drop in the chat if you have any ideas or suggestions on what I'm doing, or maybe what I'm doing wrong, or have anything at all. I'm always interested to hear from everybody else. It's kind of the whole idea here is not just for you to just listen to me talk the whole time, but to be able to have a conversation, kind of some back and forth, and be able to figure out what just that we can all maybe learn something here. So anyways, let's jump in. The first thing I am going to do is, as always, make a geometry node. And I'm just going to call this geo glass. This is going to be our glass geometry here. Let's jump in. Anybody else remember when you used to have a file node in here that you'd have to delete all the time, or have to, write a script so that it doesn't put it in there or whatever? I'm glad they've taken that out. It kind of always felt a little silly, but, I guess old, traditions kind of die hard, or maybe I'm sure that's what, the program was like for a long time. But anyways, all right, so let's just grab a tube. I always want to call it a cylinder, type in cylinder, but I realize that that's not what it's called in here. All right, so let's do this. Let's try to get this to real scale. I'm always terrible with my metric conversions here, so please probably like, so we'll do it like a tenth. It'll be a little bigger, but let's do like a tenth of a meter here in scale. don't need it to be 3 feet high, so we'll do something like that. Get our little cup going here. Okay, so got our tube. Let's get a match size here. I know that this is kind of a fun node to use. It's a nice one. So we'll just do a minimum here, so it sits right on the ground plane, or the construction plane here. And let's kind of create some scaling here to the top. We can just make it a little bit like that. Maybe that's a little too big. Maybe we'll just do it 0.2, like something like that. And, I forgot to put the end caps on, so let's do that. And I will match size, and in between here, I'm just going to select the top, blast that off. There we go. So, all right, so we got the start of that. I'm going to use one of the labs node here. Oh, I'll just do thicken. Drop that down here. Well, that's a fun looking glass. All right, so let's just do it like 0.1. That should be good. In fact, you know what? We're going to want to put that match size after the thicken because it might get just a little bit deeper here. So we've got our thicken here. We've got that just to a depth of 0.01. And you see how this is slanting here? What you can do instead is set it to primitive edge normal, and that will just extrude it, thicken it based on, kind of the primitive normal as opposed to the point normals, because if you're, calculating those point normals, they're probably sticking out a little bit at a weird angle. So it's, it's going to not be flat on the top like that. So if I just change this over to wireframe, you can see we've got thick geometry there. Looks good. It's probably a little too thick, so I will reduce that even a little more, maybe 0.5. Yeah, that looks good. All right. And I'm also going to up the columns on this here because that is too few. So let's do something like that. That looks great. And we've got thicken here. Now, one thing that just to note with this labs thicken is that if you want that middle edge, you can actually keep it there. That's kind of the original position where the glass was, or where the geometry that you're thickening is. And if you dissolve it, it'll get rid of that, or you can keep it if you need to reference it for some reason. But that is kind of a nice little thing there. Also can add some normals here, which it does. So we've got our normals there. Now I'm going to drop the match size back on here. And that will now bring us up to the, construction plane there. So we got our glass. I think that should be about it. I don't think there would be anything else we'll need. I'm just going to call this out glass geo. Just like that. Also, if you aren't familiar with it, holding down A lets you adjust your nodes. So as I drag to the left, they kind of all arrange themselves in the opposite direction. So if I do down and then, to the side, actually, that's interesting. I didn't realize that it would go either way, but that's cool. Up and down, arrange it up and down, and left and right, bring them out to the right. So, hey, I learned something new today. All right, there we go. So we got our glass geometry there. Let's put another geo node down, and I'm going to do my sim. Call this sim Vellum Fluid. I've started doing this recently where I'm naming things like the start of it with the same name, so I know if it's like geo or sim or like, different things like that. Maybe it's stupid, I don't know, but like when I go into an object merge, and if you got a lot of nodes or whatever, and you pull open this, you'll get them all sorted by, geometry, simulation, things like that. So I don't know, just something I kind of came up with, take it or leave it. But, I think that's kind of an interesting, just call this in glass. My inputs are red for whatever reason, because of a tutorial that I took when I first started, and I've just kept going with it. Applied Houdini for the win. He's great. Stephen Nipping, I believe. Awesome stuff. Go buy all of his tutorials and learn amazing things. So, all right. So we need to set up our ice cubes first, I think is a good place to start, since that's kind of the most straightforward thing to do here. So I am going to just make the most simple ice cube possible. Just going to make a cube. That is way too big of a box, so we will make it a little smaller here. Maybe 0.04. Let's do 3. 0.3. Nah, that's too small. That's not the size of an ice cube. There we go. All right, so we've got our box here. Just going to give it a couple divisions, because I found that giving it some divisions actually allowed for it to have some buoyancy in the simulation. I don't know if that was like just something weird with how I had it set up, but it seemed like it needed to have the divisions in order to, to be able to react properly with buoyancy and floating and things like that. So take it for what it's worth. I may be off base on that, but that was what I had noticed. So we'll do a few divisions on it just to give it some more points and things like that. So we got our box. Let's set up a couple of them to like drop in at first. So I think the best way to do that is just to kind of scatter some points basically and just do a copy to points. So I'm going to start with some geometry to scatter onto, just so that, it's not just like just kind of just random points floating in air. But this way I can kind of adjust how far apart they are to start out and kind of like separate them. So I'm going to take a sphere. I'm going to do a scatter node. I think we'll only do 3. So this 1,000 total is a little too high. So we'll just do 3, just a few different ones there. And then we can do copy to points here. And I will shift click both of those and just drop them in. And there we go. All right. So we've got some cubes, but they're kind of ridiculous looking like that. So let's just do an attribute randomize. I like this one for doing things like orienting, because I find that the distribution mode is like a little more, to me, a little simpler to understand. So if I do sphere and I'll change this to N, you can see now that this is going to change how these are, oriented basically. And if we look at these points, you can see the normals are just pointing off in, whatever angle. But so that's all well and good. But I think what you can see here is that there's some easy controls here, especially with angles that are really, really nice. So like in this case, you can just set the cone angle and direction, and they're all going to go in the X, the X positive direction, because the direction set to 1, 0, 0. And so obviously that's a positive X facing vector. And so then you can adjust this cone angle, and this is going to give you, a direction inside of here that you can have this kind of allowed to point into. So at this, this is 10 degrees that it's allowed to kind of move within a cone in that direction. So obviously if we did 180, that's going to allow it to kind of go anywhere within that cone. But it's just a way to be able to kind of adjust some of these things. So like say we wanted all of our normals to point upwards, right? Like that. But then we wanted to give it a little bit of variation so that they kind of all tilt in by, I don't know, say at most 45 degrees, something like that. So now we've got these kind of normals that are all pointing upwards. And if we look at this, I'm going to turn these normals off because we don't want to do that. Now we have cubes that are all pointing somewhere within 45 degrees of up. So, that's just something you can do. I mean, you can randomize normals any million ways in Houdini, but just something to keep in mind. So, all right, we've got those, but they're intersecting a little bit. So let's just kind of tweak these a little bit to get them just slightly better here. So I'm just going to use my middle click here and just adjust that to maybe like, yeah, that looks good. 0.035. Now everything's disconnected like that. We've got our copy to points here. The one thing I am going to change is those normals. I don't actually want it to copy those normals over because as you saw here, oh, I thought they were all pointing in one direction. Never mind, my bad. They looked like they were all pointing in the direction of the normal from the attribute randomize, but it is not applying the normal because of right there. So great, that is great. So, all right, so now we got to turn this into a piece of vellum geometry. So what I'm going to do is use one of the configure setups that they have because I need it to be vellum, but I don't want it to be squishy, so I need to make it really rigid, basically, right? So we need to kind of set it up as if it's going to be, a soft body, and then really up the rigidity of it. So, so the way to do that is just we can use a strut. You can just type in strut here, and there should be a configure strut soft body. There's also a tetrahedral one, but I found I feel like that one's a little more squishy. Again, could be wrong, but that one felt a little bit more squishy to me. So just going to go with the strut. So, all right. So now we've got these two vellum constraints that are set up here. And just to explain a little bit of what's going on here before we, go further, each of these constraints that's being created there's like three streams of geometry. Obviously, you can see here. So there's just the straight up, geometry, the points and things like that, where the actual calculations are going. But then there's the secondary stream of constraint geometry that is basically saying like, how are these points held together and what are the strength between them and stuff like that. So those are the two different things that make up a vellum simulation, right? So if we look, I'm just going to grab a null here just to kind of visualize these different things. But if we have this right here, we can see here's all those constraints that are made in this second stream here, in this pink, node stream that's happening here. And so these are all the things that are kind of keeping that geometry held together as a cloth, basically. So this is setting it up as a cloth. This is setting up the struts. So if we look down here, we're going to see, okay, now there are struts being added to this geometry. And it's a little hard to see with the outside of it. But let me see if I can visualize that a little differently. Okay, so here, why don't we look at it this way? If we go to wireframe, we can see that there's now all these struts inside of here, right? And those are the things that are going to help keep the geometry kind of, shaped, basically. It's going to keep its shape. It's not going to just fall down and because this is actually connecting in interior. So now we have some struts there in between each of these pieces of geometry. So let's tweak a couple settings here just to make this, to get this to be, rigid the way we want it to. So we're going to take our cloth here. Let's go down to our stretch is set at 1e plus 10, which basically means that it's 1 to the 10th, I guess. 1 with 10 zeros, right? I think that's right. Yeah. So obviously this is 1 million. This is add another 0, another 0, another 0, another 0. So this would be billion, 1e to the 10. So anyways, that's just some scientific notation. So I have to write a billion out in there or whatever. So that's all well and good. So we also want to make sure that our stiffness on our bend is up high because we don't want this to bend at all. They're ice cubes. They're not going to bend. So if we do that, that'll set it all the way up. The other thing here, we want to make sure our struts are stiff as well. We'll just set them all the way up. So now we have those set nice and high. Hey, how's it going, Crossfader? Nice to see you on the stream tonight. Doing well. How are you doing? that's kind of like all of the that's going to set up how these ice cubes are kind of rigid together. Now, one of the other things that you'll notice is that in order to have like your geometry in Vellum, stay either really rigid or make sure that there's no stretching or things like that, usually you have to up the substeps a bit. So when we first start doing this, you might see a little bit of deformations and things like that in the ice cubes. But as you turn up substeps, it will cool. Well, hopefully it's calming to have my voice on while you work in the background. I will hopefully bring good vibes your way while you're working. So with these struts inside of here, this will keep the geometry kind of rigid. Now we could also add in pressure as well. I didn't find in my few tests. Let me see. I'll just add a Vellum constraints here. I'm going to disconnect this one, and then I'll shift click those three, drop them down there. And yeah, so we can set another constraint type here to be pressure if we want to, and that'll add in other constraints here that'll help kind of create almost like a balloon type of a thing. This is one of the nodes that gets put down when you make a balloon object, a Vellum object. And so we could do that as well. I didn't find it to be super helpful with any of this, but we can just leave it on there and just see what happens. It'll probably add a little hit to the computation, but nothing too crazy. So really that is more or less for right now. It's pretty straightforward setup. I mean, there's not a whole lot we have to do. We basically just turn hey, hi Muddy Paws. Welcome to the stream. Glad to have you here tonight. So yeah, great. You are very welcome. Glad to have anybody here. Hopefully we'll all learn something tonight. And like I was saying earlier, interested to hear from people if they've got any thoughts or ideas or anything like that they want to add. Happy to have you contribute some thoughts. So yeah, Crossfader, thanks for sharing the stream with other people too. I appreciate that. It's always nice for people to be able to hear about me. It's hard to kind of get the word out on your own, so it's always nice to have others. So we've got these kind of three three constraints set up, and I'm going to put down a Vellum solver. Just drop it here. And if you drop it nice and close to that, it will connect them all. And this will set up obviously the SOPs implementation of a Vellum solver. Now, I believe you can do this if you want to jump inside, and you can look at how they set up this whole rig here. We're going to be going in here in a little bit, but that's like called a dive target there. But if you look here, you go to the DOP.NET that's above the dive target, you can actually see what they've set up here. And this is more or less the DOP network that is running the whole shebang here. So we will be doing some stuff in this forces node right here. There's a subnet that they put in there, but you can actually see kind of how they set this up and things like that and get a sense for how you would create this from scratch if you wanted to. But the Vellum solver is really nicely made and laid out and stuff like that. They even have the ability to now source, geo into that dive target. So that's what we'll be doing a little bit with the fluid. So, all right, so we got the solver here. And the other thing we need to do, and why I brought this glass in here, is I'm just going to move this part of the network over, and we can put our collision geometry right in this top node here. And that'll just stream right down these nodes and into the solver. And you can see right there, we've got our collision geometry. The other nice thing you can do in here is you can actually just set up your ground position right from there. I mean, that's as easy as it is. I think it's just literally a switch inside of the DOP network that'll turn that ground plane on or off. So that is all that is. So let's just hit play and see what starts to happen here. Yeah, we got a little squishiness there, but what we can do here is we can actually give it a couple more sub steps. Maybe that's too many. We'll just do 3. Let's see if we get a little bit better rigidity here with these. Interesting. They're actually a little more squishy than they were last night. I wonder if I made them at a different scale when I was playing with it previously. But that's okay. We'll keep working with it. So, all right. Oh, I got to turn my time scale on here. This is there they are. Doing their thing. Let's see if we can't up this a little bit here. So, let's see if the pressure can help us. Let's see any of these things here. So let's add a couple constraints per point. I'm going to do like 3 just to give it a little bit more there. And just make sure there's a little bit more maybe directional jitter on here. Basically what that's going to do is just make sure they kind of separate a little bit and connect to more points outwards. 3 constraints per point. That just means how many constraints it's going to make inside of there. And, let me see if I can up this a little bit too here as well. What do they have for pressure here? No, I think that's going to be good. You know what? I'll just give it 10 on the stiffness there, and we'll just give that a shot. See what happens. Yep, they're a little more rigid now. The other thing I just remembered is I turned off the so in here in the forces, you can turn the friction, give it a little bit less as well. So I'm just going to turn that down a little bit because there's really not a lot of friction that's going to be going on between an ice cube and a glass. It's not really going to be, dragging on it or anything like that. So let's do this. Make sure that's kind of doing its thing. Great. And the other thing that you always want to do as well is try to work with your constraint iterations here. So let's up that a little bit. Just make sure that can come to a good solve. Could you use grains instead? Yeah, for doing fluids, no. I don't think you could do grains instead. I think. Are you saying for the actual ice cubes or for which part of it are you saying to use grains? Because the fluid, yeah, I'm going to use what's more or less a grains just for the cubes. Yeah, you could do something like that as well, and fill the cube with grains. Yes. Yeah, you could do that as well, and have there be a rigid implementation for that. Sure, yeah. So let's give that a shot. So if you do vellum grain, configure grain. Yeah, what you could do is you could do. So we would do this here, I believe. And we want to do create points from volume. Yeah, so what we would need to do then is we'd need to have these be constrained together. So let's make sure. Let's see. Trying to think of how we do that with. So we would do maybe connect adjacent pieces for this to create our constraints. Well, let's see how this works as is. All right, so let's get this out of here. So we will do that, and then we can do no, that's the wrong one. So I'm gonna pull up a constraints. Vellum constraint. Put that down. And so then this should Trying to think of which is the best one to use for this. No, not stitch points. That do it? No, that's not going to do it. Do you? I'm trying to think of what the constraint setup would be for the points. I'm thinking it would be. I don't know. I'm trying to think of what the in that mode what it would be. Is this one? Yeah, that's what I'm thinking too. I'm just trying to think of like what. Yeah, so I think this actually might be the better way to do it, maybe. Let me see. Yeah, probably glue. I agree. Yeah. It doesn't seem to be creating any constraints here, which is a little. Oh. No, that should be. Where it's going on all the points. Yeah, that's is an interesting thought. Like I'm just trying to think of exactly how to go about doing that, right? But if you use something like this, I know that this like the grain source node will create constraints like that, right? And so if we did something like that, maybe that's going to create a whole, lattice work. The only problem is that I don't think it's going to set that exactly the way that I would want it. Let's see. I just want to see how this is. I'm just splitting my geometry spreadsheet out here just to kind of see what our settings are here. Yeah, so unfortunately, this doesn't set it up with our two different streams that it's kind of looking for there. So, and this vellum grain constraint doesn't have a way to set it as constrained together. So I think unfortunately with vellum it would be tricky. If you did it with grains like this and put that into a DOP network with like a pop simulation and all that stuff, that would probably work for like a rigid. And in fact, there is even a shelf tool for grains up here where you can do, granular solids and things like that. So yeah, that certainly is a good thought. I'm just not 100% sure of how to implement it because I'm pretty sure if I, brought this in here, let me just cross those out real quick. If I drop this into the vellum solver here and let's just say that I had those constraints. Stiffness, yep, that's high. I just want to make sure that my solver constraints are set high here. Let's see. Set that all the way up. Okay, let's just see. I think those are going to fall apart, but we'll just take a look at it real quick, see what happens. Yeah, they look like they fell apart there, huh? Well, let's just stick with what I kind of had going here, but that is that is an interesting one. I also didn't have my collision in there either. But yeah, that's curious. Let's go through this a little bit first, and then maybe we'll come back to that and see see if I have any more thoughts on this while I'm putting it all together, and maybe I can think of some. I don't know. Maybe we'll think of something else here. But yeah, that is an interesting thought, and certainly with having those, having it be solid like that all the way down, it would certainly allow it to not compress at all. Now I'm kind of wondering too if the part of the issue here is actually that I made this bigger last night, and so I'm kind of wondering if the scale is goofing with it a little bit. So maybe it's too small actually. So why don't we just try that real quick? Just up the transform on these both. Just scale them by 10. Just call it good. See what that does for us. I'm going to turn my substeps down again. Don't know if I'll need it that high. Set that to 150. Boy, substeps are expensive, aren't they? Yeah, see, already those are actually quite a bit, I think, less. I mean, they're smushing a little bit, but they're way less bouncy. I think that's probably what the problem was. Let's see if I do 2 on that. That's fine. We can do it at the scale. It's not going to hurt anybody, I guess. Very nice cubes. Yeah, let's take a look at that real quick. It's funny. It's strange. They're just way more smushy than they were when I was playing with it last night. That is very odd. Let me just double check everything here. Make sure I'm not missing something. Well, first of all, another thing. Jello shots. Yeah, there we go. We can call it Jello shots. That's fair enough. We can call it Jello shots and call it good, right? So another thing, just to keep in mind as well, is the edge length scale. So when you're working in here and you have these things calculated, this does add some thickness to it. So you'll notice that there'll actually be a little bit of collision, that like the fluid won't get right up to it. So, you might want to bring that down a little bit, just kind of visualize the thickness of that there. And yeah. The other thing too, sometimes the drag can affect you when you're working with Vellum. I've seen some people do different stuff like that. Like if you look at side effects as like a whole bunch of different like templated cloth geometries and things like that, and in there they with different cloths they set different drags and things like that. It just helps with kind of the look and the movement of it. So stiffness is good there. Let me just turn off this pressure and see if that's any better too. Maybe that's actually messing us up. Turn off. So if we look under visualize, I can just turn off the collision here and just kind of do something like that so it's not so bold in front of what we're actually watching there. Yeah, that's a little bit more rigid. We'll call that good. It's kind of funny how it's sitting up like that. All right, so the next kind of part to this that I was playing around with, and what I was thinking we'd do is have some liquid come down on it, right? So what I'll do is I'll make a sphere, and we'll just have this be our emitter. Bring it up a little bit here. And maybe do 0.75. That's probably a little too big. Let's do 6. Let's try that. Sure. All right, so we'll actually need that null, so keep that. I'm just going to kind of rearrange these just a little bit here. Fortunately, I've made a little bit of a mess, but hey, that's what node networks are for. All right, so we need to create some particles here that we're going to source in as a fluid. So let's see here. I believe if we do Vellum configure fluid right there, put this down. And now this is just a configure grain node, but they do have the fluid type here that you can check. So you can see it's just a Vellum configure grain, but more or less the same thing. Now it takes a second to calculate maybe a VDB in there or something. It's calculating something internally that it is going to use to source these points from. And once it's run this first little step, then it tends to be pretty quick from there. But for whatever reason, that first little step takes a second. So, all right, so let's do the particle size down a little bit. Maybe 0.25. No, that's way too many. We get there eventually, but let's bring that back. There we go. All right, cool. So there's really not a whole lot to worry about here that I've seen. Now you can adjust the packing density. Maybe if you wanted it up a little higher or lower, that's basically going to be how much it's kind of trying to fit. I kind of think about it as like how it's trying to fit that shape and how hard it's going to try to get those points in there and stuff like that. So 1.5 is like, it's going to push them in a little bit, but not go too crazy. And then if you do the dither surface, that's just going to be adding some randomization to the surface. But we should be good with that. That shouldn't be any problem. Great. Looking good. All right. So now this kind of brings in this interesting problem, problem. But so if we bring this, if we put this like in line here with our configuration and stuff like that, it would only create this once, right? There's nothing in here that tells it, hey, create this every time. And as far as I looked in here, there wasn't anything under advanced or anything like that for, fluids where it's like saying, hey, source every frame, right? So if you look at this Vellum solver right here and you dive inside, there is a nice little sticky note that they put in here. Now, again, this is that forces subnet inside of this DOPNet that's inside of this overall Vellum solver right there. There's everything they put in there. So you can dive around in there and see all the different stuff that they've put in there. But when we go into this, we're in our forces dive target here, and you can see that there's a place to put forces in, and it says here to wire pop forces in there. Things like pop wind and drag and all that kind of stuff can go into the force. And then we can add source. And so wire Vellum source dops to source to add new Vellum geometry. So what we can do then is do a Vellum source right here. And this is since we are in a DOP network right here, technically, and this is just a subnet, we can get this Vellum source node that would normally be in DOPS. You can see right here that we are technically in DOPS. It's just a subnet inside of here. And so this Vellum source, we have a couple different paths here that we can use. And this is where we can set the emission type. So you can do each frame, each step, all that kind of stuff. So let's just do it each frame for right now. The stream and all this stuff, it should be good unless you needed to change that for some fancier reason or whatever. But we're just doing something pretty basic right now, so we don't need to really mess with any of the stream or bindings. So we've got a SOP path that we want to set and a constraint SOP path that we want to set. This will just name the Vellum patch to Vellum source 1. We could just call this, we could call this fluids source or something like that, and it'll name the vellum patch fluid source. So we really just need to worry about this SOP path and this constraint SOP path right here. So I'm just going to put two nulls here that I can reference inside of there. And I'll call this, let's see, fluid geo. Fluid constraints. So there are those two nodes right there. So this is just a little kind of side thing that's happening over here. And I'm going to go inside of here and just point to those two nodes. So if we open this up here, we can see up at our top here, we've got our fluid geo. And I actually am not sure if it's creating any constraints that we need to worry about, but I think it might not be. Let me just look at it real quick here. So if we look at our geometry, there's all that stuff there. It's set the mass, phase, p-scale, things like that. Constraints really isn't anything. So, I mean, it doesn't look like there's any data in here that it really needs, but I'll just do it just to do it. If you were doing anything else to source into Vellum, like cloth, like if you were randomly sourcing that in there, which would be kind of a weird thing, but you could do it, sure. That would probably have a lot more stuff in there, or a lot more constraint data. But anyways, all right, so let's go in here. We've got our fluid source. That's going into source. All right. Let's see if we get some fluid in here. Now, this should do something kind of goofy to start with, but I'm just going to tuck this down here. Let's see what happens here. It should probably explode everywhere is my guess. Yeah, getting a little bit. It actually is less than the first time I did it the other day. It was like absolutely insane. It was just like spraying everywhere. I think it was, again, maybe because I made it a little bit of too big of a size. This is definitely spraying a little bit too much as well. So yeah, so we've got fluid coming in. We've got it interacting with our we'll call them jello shots. They're jello shots now instead of ice cubes. Only because I've only got so much time to on the stream tonight to figure out why those are squishy. So, all right, so we got our fluid coming in here, starting to interact with these, push them around a little bit. But why is it spraying everywhere? And that took me like a second the other day or a few minutes to figure out like what's going on here. And what I kind of narrowed it down to was this surface tension. This is on the Vellum solver, just to show you where I am on the Vellum solver. Under advanced, there is, let me just twirl these up so we don't have them all over the place here. There is a fluids tab, or drop down, I guess now. And in here, there's a surface tension. And I found that setting this up quite a bit helps it kind of have this nice, almost more, reminds me a little bit more of like a flip simulation style emitter, where you get these kind of like, it's falling down, it's kind of suctioning and all that kind of stuff. Like it feels more akin to the way that you would get a flip collision. And as well, obviously liquid, most liquids that you come in contact with is going to have some level of surface tension anyways. So it's a helpful thing to kind of get the look right anyways. So I'm not sure why they have it so low, but it might be possibly just so that if you're working with grains and stuff like that, it's not like overriding that or whatever, just in the settings or whatnot. But yeah, so I think actually we could go all the way up to 1 with that, and it should work just fine. Just take a look at this real quick, what it's doing here. But yeah, we're getting some good volume here. There's a couple points went through the bottom there, I think, but I mean, there's no like disappearing particles in the corners like you get sometime with flip on smaller scales. So, pretty good. Let's just up that to 0.75 and maybe turn the viscosity down a little bit. I kind of feel like that's a little bit, I don't really even want viscosity in here from my standpoint, but yeah, there we go. Actually, now it's spraying more. I guess we do want viscosity. I teach a little bit, and I always say that these programs, whenever I'm doing stuff in a program, I feel like it always makes a liar out of me, especially if someone else is watching and I'm like saying something like, "Yeah, this is what it should do." It'll always make a liar out of me every single time, which is very humbling. All right, so we've got the fluid working here, right? So the thing that, yeah, it's always right, it's always going to do that. You have somebody standing next to you and you're going to show them, you're going to show them something that you're working on, and it's like, oh, come check this out, this is how this works, and blah blah blah, and it's just like everything just is up in a ball of flames in front of you, and it's like, oh, cool, yeah, this is great, well, come back in 2 hours when I figure out why this isn't working this one time I'm trying to show you. I'm going to turn the surface tension up a little higher. I don't know why it still feels like it's spraying a bit. Hey, yeah, well, I guess you're the smart one, man. I guess that's what am I doing here? I'm just making myself look like a fool. That's all right. I like working in Houdini period. So, oh, you know what? Maybe this is what's causing it here. Got some weird. So I work in a video production company in upstate New York, and when I when we have people come in, and I actually will do After Effects with like art directors and clients and stuff there, and that definitely like cured me of any like stage fright stuff of like working in front of people. Man, having an art director and creative director just sitting there while you're like fumbling with something and like trying to figure something out in real time in After Effects for like 8 hours straight, that is brutal, absolutely brutal. All right, let's just go back here for a second and see what we can figure out. Yeah, it seriously is so, it's brutal, especially when a client comes in or something like that, and they're like, "Oh yeah, just can you just do this real quick?" And like what they're saying, like real quick, it should take like normally take you like an hour. We had one time, I remember we had sorry, I'm just gonna chat while this is going in the background. I remember we had like, yeah, real quick, right? I swear we had 12 people in my office, and there was literally like, we were like trying to get like make all these changes and get a client review out or something. It was just insane. There were so many people in there. Everybody's eating and joking and having a good time, and I'm literally just at my computer just typing away like frantically trying to get uh you know uh a review link out to somebody and get everything exported and everything like that. People are like, "Oh, do you want any pizza?" I'm like, "How am I going to eat pizza? I'm using both my hands right now." Like, I was like, "No, I'm just going to keep working as hard as I can, as fast as I can to get this done." It's crazy. It's always crazy when you have people like in an office setting like that. But anyways, all right. I think we're somewhere in a better place now. Things aren't shooting everywhere. So, all right, we've got our fluid. We've got the Jello shot slash should be ice cubes in the glass. Um, so the thing that took me a little bit of time to get right with the balance was, how do we get this to float in here, right? Because conceptually, from a scientific standpoint, um, you're talking about the density of the fluids, right? That are going to, one is more dense than the other, and that's going to cause one to float and one, to sink. And or in ice cubes, I think it's also somewhat trapped air and things like that. But anyways, the thing that I was like just trying to, six producers. Yep. Yep. That is exact. Yeah. Six producers. It's a lot of people producing, man. I yeah, that is crazy. Um, anyways, so we need to tweak the density of these things, right? At that point, they're all the producer. Yeah, everyone's the producer when they come into an office, right? Just everybody's producing. All right, here, you do this and this and this and this. Everybody's just got their own thoughts and ideas. All right, so I'm gonna set this just to have a like a cutoff for the fluid. Maybe we'll do it at 60 frames. So I'm just gonna go into this. Yeah, I'm just gonna have these loop back to themselves infinitely and create an impossible looping scenario. I don't know how I just clicked like that. It's kind of crazy. Um, I'm glad that that doesn't like start a black hole or something if you have it, you know, looped into itself like that. Also, at this point, what's the error? Where's our error here? I know it's in here somewhere. Yeah, if that was C40, yeah, the whole program would just lock up forever. Oh, it just drives me crazy. If it ever does that, I found this the other day. There's a couple like random nodes in here that just throw an error like that. It just makes me absolutely insane to have that little exclamation mark. Like, I'm not doing anything wrong. Stop yelling at me, Houdini. Leave me alone. All right. So I'm going to go to 60. I'm just turning the sim off here. And I'm going to set the activation. And I'll just go back, set another keyframe. I could do them as hold keyframes, but whatever. Just going to do it the old-fashioned way. There we go. All right. Whisper sweet. Yeah, After Effects dies with everything. Gosh, it must be nice for Adobe to have a monopoly on the motion graphics world. Anyways, all right, let's start this up. We should come to a point where this will. Hello, there we go. I'll let this go for a second. Just make sure it's respecting my keyframes. Should work, but just double check. So what I found was that the pressure, like just the force of the liquid pushing down, was kind of keeping the ice cubes down. So stopping it and like giving it a chance to kind of settle and come to a little bit of equilibrium seemed to help with allowing the buoyancy to kind of take place. So, you know, it's something. A lot of times I get so overly stuck on things like, oh man, this has to be perfectly physically accurate and all this stuff. And then it's like, well, just do the thing that works, I guess, like don't like if you need to cheat a little bit, cheat a little bit, it's not like somebody's here like checking your work, you know, looking inside of your render somehow at your software and seeing how you actually did it. They just care about what it looks like. So I think I get hung up on the little minutia sometimes, but I guess that's anyone that works in Houdini get hung up in the minutia. All right, so there we go. Got a couple points coming out there. That's weird. What are my sub steps at? Range. Spaghetti incident? Gosh, what's a spaghetti incident? That sounds horrible. That's a reference, some pop culture reference I don't know. But that sounds terrible. You know, yeah, yep, just a whole mess of spaghetti. All right, there we go. Good, we got that stopping. So what I noticed in here with the fluid was, we've got our physical attributes here and we have the density, right? Calculate uniform, all this stuff. It's calculating the mass, from density and all that stuff. And when we pull up our geometry spreadsheet, that's neat. Yeah, I think node trees get messy. Like when you save a project and you open it back up, it's like when you put like a bunch of cables in a drawer and you open it up later, you're like, how did these all get twisted back together? I think that happens like when you save a project and come back to it like 3 months, 6 months later. sometimes I feel like I open up projects. I'm like, what was I just did that today. I had to redo something today, and I was like, why is there so much happening in here? What was I doing? Like, it seems like I did too much. But anyways, so yeah, so this sets the mass here. So it's 0.04, and the cloth, it sets the mass here to 0.1, and that is set here. So you can do set uniform, right? So in this case, obviously the mass of the um the the cubes is going to be quite a bit higher. So I was looking at like calculate uniform, right, by density. But obviously if I set this to, so the other one's set to 1,000, right? Well, now the mass is at 1. So I'm like, okay, so I would think normally I would set this to be like 900, right? And then this fluid is set at 1,000. But for some reason, it's calculating that differently, and I'm not really sure why that is. If it's the point spacing of it, maybe. I guess that could be it. It could be that the points are further apart and it's calculating it differently, but I'm not really sure. I don't know exactly what's happening there, but I'm just gonna read this real quick. Yeah, I'm not sure what the deal is there, but what I ended up doing was just kind of trying to get these to balance out, right? Is each point weighting 1K? Yeah, maybe. I think I ended up. So the weird thing was when I was playing with this before, I ended up with the density of the ice cube / jello shots at 11.5 for whatever reason, and so that sets the mass at 0.17 for that, and then the fluid is at 0.4. So yeah, those should. Yeah, I don't know. It's a little weird, It's like I'm not sure exactly what's going on there. I don't know what the math is. I'm sure there's some reason for it. I'm sure there's something logical behind it, but it seems like those two things are just like, I don't know, are just not connected in an intuitive way. Yeah, I have more fluid than cube points. Exactly. Yeah, so that could be what it is. I mean, okay, let's just do a quick experiment. So let's just up these divisions here by some crazy number. Not crazy, but some higher number. Yeah, I mean, you might that might just be it. Yeah, just typing out loud. Yeah, no, I like it. It's a fun phrase. You have more fluid than cube points. That's the things you type as someone who works in 3D. Yeah, that could be it. Possibly, could just be the density number of the points, and each point weighs more, but that's because there's less of them. Yeah, I guess that could be it. It's just interesting. It's very, very fascinating to me how that might work. Well, let's see. All right, so that's at. I mean, maybe this will work. I don't know if this is gonna freak out or not, but give it a shot, I guess. God save my poor computer if I light it on fire here with too many vellum points. Come on, it should be able to handle that, right? I don't know. I really don't know. Go. Good game. All right, so let's see. Let me just double check here. 0.42. Yeah, I mean it's a little lighter. I'll do this to like 450, and we'll see what happens here. Go computer. Do I need to like say a prayer over it or something? Nah, it should be fine, right? Hey, look at that. We got cubes. We got cubes falling. It's not even really that much slower. Man, it was barely breaking a sweat before. It was just its base calculations that was taking that. Oh no, we got we got some crazy stretching going on there. Yeah, close the spreadsheet. That's a good point. That is a good point. So my thought is that these are going to float, but maybe not. Maybe they won't. You never know. Never know these days. That's something crazy going on there. Huh. It's like stuck to the side of it, I guess. See what happens when this fluid finishes up. You know, it's funny you say that, Crossfader, about the spreadsheet. I have literally never thought about the fact that that could be a hit on performance. I don't know why. I never thought about that. But yeah, it's got to update that. That's no fun for the program. No, it looks. I don't think we're gonna have floating here. Just not. Doesn't feel like those are gonna go. Oh, well, maybe it'll make me a liar again. Come off. Can we will them to float? No. All right. Well, I know that they'll float when there's less points. Now I don't know what's happening, but definitely with less points it will float. All right. I'm going to go back. And let's get this box back under control. Can I just click on it, please? All right. 10. We don't need them to be 450. Let's do 12 point. Sure, 4.5. Fat fingered that one, but yeah. Me too. I tried to tell him to float, but yep, nobody's gonna do it. All right, this should definitely work. And yeah, actually, it's going a little faster, but yeah, it's funny how really that's not that much. Oh yeah, yeah, those are. I'm feeling very confident at this point. Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. That makes sense. I mean, so with that's true with when like water freezes and stuff like that. I'm trying to think which way. So it's less dense, so it expands. Yeah, that's the yeah. It expands and contracts, expands. Yeah. So you tell Houdini that, right? Well, that's where the is there a converter on Google that's like a physics to Houdini converter, like a calculator? You can do lengths and stuff like that, but maybe they should come up with like a converter. Code. Yes, code. All right, these are starting to float now. We're getting there. They're floating. So yeah, it's just really about that those density calculations, and if I was putting in a feature request to the higher powers at side effects, I would definitely say to find a way to make that a little more. Yeah, it is working. Just to make that a little bit more intuitive there, because really what you end up having to like look at is like the mass of them, more or less. I actually think I need to turn the density down just a little bit to make them float higher. The funny thing is, like, there's like a point at which they literally like shoot to the surface, because it's almost like they're like they almost yeah, it's like this like fine tipping point. But yeah, they're floating. They're in there floating. They're just not. Yeah, they're doing something. They're just a little too heavy. So that's interesting. 9%. I'm actually surprised that it's that much. I would have thought that like it was, gosh, I don't know. Like I would have thought it would be like 1% or something, but that's almost 10%. I mean, that's considerably lighter. Makes sense why they float, I guess. All right, so we're gonna go back here. All right, 11.5. I have a feeling this might be the magic number. Let's do it. Yeah, I don't know if either of you guys are from cold weather climates, but the freeze thaw cycle is the worst. It ruins lots of things. That expanding and contracting. Crossfader, you're on the West Coast. Yeah, California. Yeah, you don't get as much of that unless you're in northern. Oh yeah, there you go, Connecticut. Yep. Oh yeah. 50 is freezing. Quiet. My watch says it's 46 today, and I wore a light jacket. Yeah, 50s bathing suit weather. Exactly. Especially this time of year, man. Everybody out. It was raining, but everybody was acting like it was, a million degrees outside. Yeah, man. Well, you want a snowstorm? We had some crazy ones this year. Oh my gosh, it was absolutely out of control. Did you Were you on the stream when I said when I get out the party hat? Yeah, you guys in Connecticut probably get some of that hurricane stuff too, like those, like some remnants of hurricanes and nor'easters and all that stuff. Rise, ice cubes. Yes, I think this will be more or less the right spot. Yeah, look at those. Look at those floating cubes. Um, they do have on the side effects site. There's like a multi-part um tutorial series about like that guy that made like that mojito animation thing for the one side effects presentation. I think for the H19 release. I don't know if either of you guys saw that, but that looks really cool. And I was thinking about that today. I was like, why didn't I look at that and see, what he used for his ice cubes in that. Let's go crazy. Let's see. I think we can get these things to really, really. Yeah, I didn't watch it yet either. It's so long. I was like, oh, what am I gonna have time to watch all of these? I mean, there's like, yeah, it's on the long list of things to watch. Yes, there's like 15 parts or something. I was like, good lord. I mean, man, that's a lot. Sounds like my wife's bookmark list. She loves to bookmark things, and man, her bookmark list gets crazy sometimes. I'm like, you just pretty much now you have a list of the internet, I guess. I mean, when you bookmark everything, you've bookmarked nothing at that point. So I don't know, but I always tease her about that. That she's a digital hoarder. I'd much prefer it over a physical hoarder. Yeah, you can't find anything. Exactly. You get in like 12 subfolders on like Chrome or whatever browser of your choice. And you get in there and you're like, I don't even know what exists anymore. I just try to stay away from her browsers. I don't want to see all the bookmarks. But she's much better at organizing things than me. So, I mean, hey, I guess you win some, you lose some. All right, I think we're getting close on this guy here. I think this is getting pretty close. Now wait, why is this not floating? Now I'm actually confused. Okay, it's just the downward force. Now they're gonna float. They're probably gonna go shooting up. It's like I turned it down. Why did it go? Why did it stay on the bottom? Again, last time I was playing with this, I only had a little bit of water, and they actually went up a lot higher. So that's interesting. Wait a second, are these sleeping? I can't tell if they just like went to sleep or not because now they don't even look like they're moving. No, they're still moving. Barely. All right, let's. Dead. They're not sleeping, they're dead. I always like the sleeping particle thing in Houdini that it's like a little like what is it? Like something with like a sleep hat on or something. Oh no, it's not in there. Yeah, they do look pinned together, don't they? Man. Yes, you're right. That was like stuck in there. Definitely some weird friction stuff going on here. Did I miss friction somewhere and not think about it? Well, here, real quick, I will pull up my project from that I was playing around with last night or the other night, whatever it was, and see what that looks like. Um, so yeah, I'm not 100% sure on why that's happening like that. Let me actually turn this down a little bit. Let's do less points. Just why not? Give it a shot. And over here, I'm going to open up this. Oh no, that's an even bigger mess. I think we're totally. Oh no. Let that simulate for a second. I'm glad I have plenty of RAM because it will not get too angry at me. Yeah, they might just be squished in the bottom like that. You might be right. It might just be a size thing that they're just like all like crunched in there. All right, let's look at this real quick. This was what I did the other evening. Let's look at this real quick. I'll show you pretty much the same setup. A little neater. Look at that. I pull the meal out of the oven. At least this will make less of a liar out of me that like it does actually work. And actually the ice cubes are not smushing like crazy. They do actually like I think they smush a little, but they bounce. So I don't know. Must have pressed one thing wrong, different or something. Just make sure this isn't simulating right now. It's not good. All right. We'll let that keep going. Set up a little differently. So let me bring that back over. Just a standard screen here. Yeah, they are bouncing for sure. Hey, look at that. You actually get some spheres in that mode. That makes a lot more sense. I was like thinking at first, like, why am I not seeing the spheres when it's ticked on to show spheres? It's because I'm in wireframe mode. Sometimes the most obvious things, you know. Yeah, so this is again, like I said, I was messing around with this the other evening, and exact same setup, pretty much. Vellum fluid. Yeah, these really do float with the water. They sure do. Yes. And I have 10 divisions on those cubes as well. It must just be some little thing about something that I'm doing here. So these might actually float too much. I don't remember where I saved it at, what density level, but the yeah, they might they might be floating on the top like a beach ball, but we'll see. Guess I would have to look through. Oh, you know what? That could be what part of it is. I turned the time scale down a little bit. I'm wondering if that's helping it a little bit. I bet you that is. I bet you that is what's helping it. I turned it down just so it wasn't like so it just felt a little smaller maybe, so it wasn't so full speed kind of. Um this is a little less fluid as well, so that's could have something to do with it, I guess. You never know. Let's just take a look. Actually, no, I'll just flip book it so we can take a look at it. While it's doing its thing. They're very spinny, but I think that's just because it's, you know, there's a bunch of kind of convection or whatever going on in there. Advection, whatever. Vorticity. I don't know. Pick a word. Pick a word. Any word. So yeah, they really are floating. It's a really fine line to get them to kind of sit properly in there without shooting to the top and all that stuff. It's kind of a little bit of a balancing act. At least in this scenario, there might be, there could be other settings that help stabilize it a little bit. But um, so just to show, like kids, yes, it's a fine balance between kids existing and kids being the death of you. During the pandemic, I was a foster parent, and that was a very wild ride. Just say that. I currently am not a foster parent. We maybe that's where we'll leave the personal information. But yes, kids are wild. Kids are wild. Great, but wild. It's a whole thing. Um, all right, so just to show you what I have set up here and that it's basically the same and I don't really know what else is different. Yes, they are. Um, all right, I've got oh, there's one of the things. Oh, crazy, you foster two kiddos. Yeah. Yep. It is a whole thing. Much much appreciation for all that stuff. Um our situation didn't work out so well, but hey, that's life. Things don't always work out. Um, so yeah, so this all, but you can give, yeah, kind of you can give them back, but it doesn't feel like that. It doesn't feel like that. It's a real weird feeling. Um, so yeah, so this back to Houdini. um, so I just had it set with cloth. Everything's set the same pretty much here. I don't think I said anything majorly different that I can see. Edge length's about the same. Struts, got a bunch of struts, 3 constraints per point. Might have adjusted the damping ratio on it. Maybe that's it. Maybe that's part of it. And I also did this shape match because I was like, what does this do? Seems like a newer one. It's at the bottom of the list. And that might have helped a little bit as well. Keep it a little bit more boxy. So, you know what? Why not? Let's get back over here and try it. Go back to the other one. Do a shape match. Why not? All right, so it looks like the other thing that I did was changed the damping ratio on. No. You think you can disable the stretch and just use shape match? Yeah, let's try it. Don't don't even dare me to do it because I'll do it. All right, give us a shot. See what happens. What's the worst that can happen? I have the other one working. I'm not lying. I mean, this right here, this whole situation is exactly why somebody, when they see, what is it? The glass is just freaking it out. It's like there's too much friction on the glass or something. It's like sticking to it. Really weird. This is exactly why they have, when they're on TV doing cooking, they have the finished meal to pull out because sometimes you just can't get it right. Yeah, so is that shape match? Because I remember them saying something I want to say it was in this most recent version release that they had added something that helps you get closer to like rigid body in Vellum. And is that shape match what that is? I think it is, right? Yeah, yeah, that's what I thought. Because yeah, it's interesting. I wonder if the struts are actually like fighting against it. I wonder. Might be better just to do the shape match. Yeah, there's still something here that's not totally right, but there's, yeah, this one is stuck in here, isn't it? It's interpenetrated down there at the bottom. Get out of there. What are you doing, corner? I just love it. It's like I'm colliding. No, I'm not. I'm done colliding. What is up with that? Come on. You're killing me. You're killing me right there. Crazy. Yeah, it was like, nah, I'm done. I'm done colliding with this glass. This glass is, I've had it. Eh, those those are floating, I think. I think we got floating cubes, guys. We got floating cubes. Thank the maker. We got floating cubes. That other one's stuck to the glass, but you know what? I'll take 2 out of 3. This guy down here, he hates floating. He's never wanted to float. Yeah. Well, hey, we um got floating ice cubes. So I don't know if you guys have ever messed around with doing this kind of stuff in Flip with RBD, but boy, it is not super easy to do. I mean, I've played around with it a few different times, and it just seems like it never works properly. Now, granted, of course, this is making me look like it's not working properly ever either, but at least it's something you can. I mean, you can get set up in an hour versus trying it multiple times. But yeah, I don't know. Those don't want to float all the way up. They're just kind of chilling there, huh? That's all right. At least they're sort of floating. I'll take sort of floating. They're special ice cubes that are not. They're only 1% the density of the water, so they're only floating a little. You only find them in certain 3D DCC programs. But hey, sort of working. So the other thing I was kind of thinking would be neat to mess around with would be having like a sheet of cloth and having some water, you know, doing that kind of a thing, like having it like maybe tear or do something like that. I don't know. I'm just kind of thinking off the top of my head as far as like other things, or if there's anything else that you, maybe we could go back to trying that. Maybe try the grain setup too. I don't know. What do you think? Should we keep messing with this, or try maybe some cloth and tearing and stuff like that? I think that could be kind of fun. I was thinking that might be an interesting thing to do. Those are tiny. Look at those little guys. Didn't scale those up. Yeah, breaking cloth is always fun. Let's do it. I don't know what it's gonna be, but it's gonna be something. So let's give it a shot. All right. Goodbye to you guys. Let's set up. For this, we don't even really need. Don't really need any geo to set up. It's gonna be pretty straightforward. Sim. Um. Yeah, I don't know. I would assume it can, right? Because I mean, if like if an object hitting it can break it, right? Like a vellum object can break it. Technically, the water it's the reason that the fluid works is because it's all vellum. I think that's why it can interact so easily. So, question mark? I don't know. Never done it before. We're in uncharted territory. Feeling crazy. Feeling crazy tonight. Um, how did you? Now that is very true. This is the worst bounty commercial ever. No, this is the other guy in the bounty commercial. This is the competitor. Can't, yeah, bounty doesn't work. All right, let's do some real nice looking stuff here. Let's just use just a grid. I think I'll do a 1 meter grid. I don't know. Just making it up as we go here. I don't know, 50 by 50. Let's give it a shot. Cool. So this is going to be a cloth figure. Stick that there. Got some cloth. Maybe we'll pin the corners down, right? Select some corner points here. Select some in each of the corners, I guess. Got some pins there. Oh, yeah, I'm on frame 136. Like, why is it taking? Why is putting that solver taking so long? Yeah. God, that's. I mean, let's just cut the stream. I made some cloth. Nobody's ever seen that. This is a world first right here. First time. You know what? Let's just steal some of our own stuff. Damn, what is this? Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. What is this? This is crazy. Oh yeah. Yep. Yeah, that we'll be there soon. Give me what time is it? Let's see. It's 9:30 here. Give me about 15 minutes. We'll be good. 9:45. Let's put it on the clock. Yeah, that is seriously gross. Sorry, I should have had a I don't know what Diablo's a video game, right? I think, right? I think it's a Blizzard video game, right? All right, so we got those. Those should work just the same. That sphere's way too big. Sorry, sometimes I make funny noises when I'm thinking. All right, particle size down. Yeah, sure. That's good. Never got into all those Blizzard games. When I was in college, a lot of people were like into World of Warcraft, I think, or some people were. Not a lot of people, but people were that I knew. And I was like, I don't know. I don't get this. It's not my thing. I don't know. It's just never my thing. All right, let's get some fluid here. Great. And then yeah, I don't know, World of Warcraft. It's always a weird one. It just seemed like even at the time it was like, man, is this like seems like so antiquated looking, and it just felt weird. I don't know. Not my cup of tea. All right, I'm just cannibalizing some of the stuff I made previously. I just need to repoint this. There actually is a way to, or no, there was a way that I had this coming in by doing a little bit of expressions, in here. Expressions, is that the right? Yeah, that's the right terminology. That's the wrong one. There it is. But when it's not connected to the Vellum like chain, basically, wasn't anything I couldn't think of an easy way to write an expression for it. So I was just like, forget it. Just attach it. All right, so we got those set up. There's our fluid coming in. Let's see here. That is that is some heavy water apparently. Boy. Oh, that's funny looking. All right. All right. So what did I do before? Got to tweak this fluid a little bit, give it a little bit of viscosity or a little bit of surface tension just to make sure it doesn't go spraying everywhere. Oh, that's fun looking. That's a thing. Oh, we're getting somewhere now. 7 minutes to make that Diablo cinematic. All right. So why is this up so high? I understand why I made this so high off the ground. I really don't. That's okay. Um, put a ground plane in here. Yeah, it's starting to do something. So I'm not 100% sure why this is, but what I've noticed is that if I have this cloth here and I'm just gonna, I'll calculate varying, that's fine. I'm gonna set this just way higher, and this should, I think, not stretch as much. Of course, it'll stretch more since I said that, but maybe not. Yeah, looks like it's stretching less, doing less crazy stuff. I mean, for 5 minutes, we're getting somewhere here. I mean, something's happening. 5 minutes. It might take me 5 hours to do that in with like flip and some other thing to get it to feedback properly. Heck, just to get it to collide could take a while. Oh, is that gonna like drip over the side? That'd be kind of wild looking. All right. So now here's the question: can we get this to tear? I say yes. I think we can. Just need to make some weak spots here. Again, I don't know why I put this 2 meters up in the air, but whatever. I did. All right, so for tearing, we need to set the strength of these, right? Just trying to remember here. So we need to go into the constraint geometry. And is that? Missing something here. Collisions, forces. Oh, using 5 megabytes. Just up that just in case. I mean, I guess it'll be fine. Um, hmm. Think about this. Why that might be hidden actually in this Vellum solver. It might actually not be here. Because I'm not seeing anything about breaking thresholds. All right, let's do some digging. So if we go in here, I'm just gonna say, just do the scary allow editing of contents. Oh boy, now we've got a network to worry about. All right, let's go in. And I crashed it somehow by clicking on that. That was weird. Okay. Well, let's boot that back up. Sorry about that. This is my other project that I was testing previously. Don't know why that happened. Let's give it a second here. Let's try reopening that one. When was that last saved? Do have autosave on, so yeah, 941. That's not that long ago. That'll work. Hey, look at that. Now here's the question: did it actually? Is anything? Nope. Density's up to 1 there. Great. All right. I don't think I lost anything. Maybe something got unset, but that's fine. Allow editing. I don't know why it crashed last time, but boy, did it. Okay. Here we are. Solver. It's always kind of interesting to see what has been like promoted and what maybe isn't. There you go. I knew there was some more stuff in here. Oh, there it is. Collisions. No. There's a I know there's a braking threshold in here somewhere. Some sort of setup for braking. Huh. Yeah, it definitely is interesting. There's quite a few other other things in here that you can adjust. I always I forget about some of these things. Um just gonna drop down a new Vellum solver and make sure I'm not missing it here. Yeah, it's Peter. Thanks, Crossfader. Have a great evening. I will hopefully see you another time. Thanks for joining me on the stream. Enjoy your freezing cold 50-degree weather. See you, man. Huh. Am I thinking of something totally different here? Maybe I am. Yeah, brr. Rub it in. Rub it in. Traction, search scale, motion, sleeping. Hmm. All right. Maybe it's in the constraints that I set it up. Let's just set this back, match current definition. We're back. Let's do Vellum constraints here. Hmm. Interesting. I really thought there was something in here. Great. Thanks for joining me, Muddy Paws. Really appreciate it. Thanks for following as well. Yeah, hopefully see you next time. And yeah, if you follow me on Twitter, I usually will put up something ahead of time just to like poll people and see what they're interested in, or at least announce like what I'm thinking about working on or whatnot. So keep an eye out there. Houdini Hangout over there as well. So thanks for joining. I really appreciate it. All right. Let's just look at these vellum notes here and just see if I'm missing something. I guess what you could do is you could break the cloth first, but I really thought there was a way to do it without having to. No, maybe that is what it is. I think maybe you do have to. Yeah, I bet you breaking it first and then gluing the points together and then letting the glue break. The glue constraints break would be the way to do this. So let's give that a shot. All right. So, all right. So what I'm going to do, I think, is let's paint some attributes on this. This over a little. Sure. Attribute paint. That. And let's just kind of do a couple of zigzaggy kind of things here. Sure. That'll work. Probably break right there. Cool. So we've got a mask attribute going on. Looking good. Then what we could do is we could do a poly cut. I believe it is. I always get cut and split mixed up. Yep, poly cut. And we'll cut at attribute crossing. We will use the cut attribute that I just made, mask. And let's just do the strategy of cut instead. And let's see. I think if we do split. Let's try that. Nope, that's not it either. Hey, different plan. We'll just do this, a poly split, and just draw it down across like this. We'll just make some cuts. Start over here, just make some crazy zigzaggy cuts. across like so. And then the other split. Go. Switch this back to smooth shaded. Oh, to smooth wire shaded. You can see those. Great. All right, let's see how many. No. Yeah, that should be good. Let me just double check here and see if these points are getting duplicated there in the corners or if these are all just individual. If they are individual points, I'll need to split them. What's happening here? Point mode, please. Just one. Okay. So make a couple split groups here, I think, and use those to drive this if I can. All right, let's just double check to make sure that those groups are actually being made. Yep. Append that to the group. Make sure that those are actually both getting created. Great, so we got a split path group, which are those paths there. What about these guys here? Oh, it didn't like that I went straight across those there, right? Let me just check. Just throw a blast down real quick and see if those points are still there. Yep. Does not look like those are getting brought in, so I just adjust the way I'm doing this. Just redraw them, why not? Oh, that got confused. Let me try it again. So I'm just going to make sure that I'm not going straight down any of these lines just to give myself a nice kind of edge to work with here. So that I don't have any straight edges there that already exist, so that that group will get properly made. Then I'll go over here to this next poly split. Do that the same way, coming back over like so. Hey, why did it unselect that? That's craziness. Well, that should be fine. All right, so then if I did this instead. All right, so I'm going to take that edge group and do a group promote. Because this clearly does not, this wants a points, vertices, or primitives. So I will take this from edges to points, and we will do split path group. And there we go. There are our cut paths. So now if we bring this in here, split path group, we should hopefully see, yep, those now have multiple points on them and everything else does not. So that's cool. Now we got vellum cloth here. Let's see what happens, because I think those are all going to be separate now. So let's just take a look at that. I think they're all going to fall apart, hopefully. Yup. Looking good, looking good. Looking great. Water's just falling right through. So now what we need to do is we need to glue those together. So that's just going to be a constraint here. So let's do a vellum constraints. And this will be, let's see, stitch points, I want to say? No. Glue. Yeah, that could work. We could do it that way. Let's see if that does it. Sort of. It's sort of working. Sort of working. Let's do stitch points. I kind of feel like that's going to be better. Breaking threshold. There we go. See, that's what I was looking for. Jeez. Only took me how long to find it? It doesn't like that though. Yeah, 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 yeah. That's going good. It's going real good. Well, it's not that one, I guess. All right. Oh, maybe that'll be better. A few constraints per point. Let's actually take this out. Sure. Let's see how that works. Why not, right? So we have a glue, stiffness. All right. Let's see if that does it. More constraints is better. Hey, it's doing something. There's some little holes in it, but we're getting somewhere. We're definitely getting somewhere here. So now the idea is breaking threshold. first of all. Let's see if maybe we can't. Just add some more constraints along these things here. Okay. Looking good. What's the stretch stress at? I don't even know. Let's try 1. It seems high. Let's do 0.5. Oh, we got something going on there. Got some tearing a little bit. Fully, but you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to have the fluid source not start activating at frame 1. Set these to constant keyframes. Set it. Oops. Yeah, it's trying to solve that right now. Turn off my solver. Set a keyframe there. Set that to 0. Set my activation keyframe to, I don't know, 24. Then we'll have this turn off at, I don't know, 84. Sure. Great. Just want to let the cloths like kind of rest a little bit before the fluid starts hitting it. Just want to see what it's doing, you know? Yeah. Get somewhere. All right, let's turn down that glue threshold. Let's just go down. See what it does. And I'd really like for it to punch a hole in it, I think would be the coolest thing, but just leaking out. Leaking out the hole here. Just wish we could get those to be a little tighter. Clearly missing something, but oh wow, got a nice little hole going on there actually. It's not terrible. It's interesting. Let's see. See if any of these other modes work any better. Oops. I'm just gonna go way down on it. Let's see. It can't even hold itself together anymore. All right. There's actually something we probably could do. Leave the threshold high. Could actually do... Let's see, because we could update the vellum constraint properties. Yes, force? I don't know. Let's give it a shot. See if that works. And we could go to break threshold. We could animate that actually. So at 48, oops. Actually, no, let's do it at 72. Set the break threshold from 2. We'll just slowly have it go down to 0. Let's do 0.75. Just slowly have it go down there. And the group that we're going to want it for is, let's see here. Let's call this panel glue. I believe this will output that. We can go up here and select our group. We can say, let's see. That, just see if this comes up in here. Yep, panel glue. And that will adjust that. So panel glue will start at threshold of 1 and it should go down from there. So let's give that a shot, see what happens. Let's see, got a couple breaks there. So let's maybe set it a little higher to start with. Let's do 10 to start with, and we'll come in here, turn this off, set this to 10 as well. Right. Slowly start to almost like break open here. Yep, there it goes. A hole right in it, and out the fluid goes. Interesting. Let's take a look at that again. So what I'm going to do is actually set this constraint property down even a little more at that second point here. Maybe we'll just do it down to like 0.1. Now what should happen as it's going later and later, closer to that 84th frame here, it should start to really break open and truly should basically tear all the way open, I think, at this point, because we know that those constraints aren't strong enough to actually like hold it. Yep, there we go. And it just breaks right open then. That's pretty cool. I could probably do something a little bit better with making those separate panels like that, unfortunately. Um, I'm just drawing a blank as to a better way of doing that, but whatever. It'll work for now. Yeah, there's certainly a better way to do that, but and there's our big pile of fluid on the ground. So here, let's take a look at this. Go. So yeah, there is a little bonus feature for you. Hopefully, that's something kind of interesting to you. And I think that's where we're going to end the stream for this evening. Been going for a little bit here, and I've really appreciated everybody, chiming in. And if you're seeing this after the fact, you can always reach out to me at Houdini Hangout on Twitter. I'm going to the plan is to go live on Tuesdays at 8 p.m. On Twitch, YouTube, and I'll always be announcing things like that on Twitter before I start up. So yeah, please join us again next time, and I'd keep an eye out for for announcements on what I'm thinking about streaming, and yeah, we'll go from there. So thanks so much for joining me on Houdini Hangout this week, and have a great rest of your week. Have a great Wednesday tomorrow, and well, if you're on this side of the pond, but yeah, thanks so much for joining us, and we will talk to you later.